How do you make best use of the internet in your digital marketing if you're a small farm business with a gross annual revenue between $100,000 and $1 million? $1 million, we're getting into some real business territory here. And I found over the years that whether you're selling chickens or you're selling waffle makers or you're selling cars, the underlying principles of business are the same. And it's the orchestration of those different tactics and techniques, those different principles as they apply to your business. That's where the real magic comes about. So while I had a friend in town who has experience dealing in a whole bunch of businesses, very smart guy, I wanted to jump on the podcast and get an overview that if we were talking specifically to somebody in the $100,000 to $1 million business, I had somebody in my mind. It was my buddy Joe. And so if I had Bryan's ear, Bryan's our consultant today, and I wanted to help Joe out with his digital marketing to help him grow his business further, what is that overview of succeeding on the internet in 2025? We dip into some technical subjects. We get some light and easy, upfront, actionable tips that you can take away today, and then some food for thought if you are trying to grow and expand, because again, your context is going to be different. So on the podcast today, we have Bryan Butler of SmarTech. SmarTech is a company that does consulting all over the world with small to medium scale businesses, and medium scale gets into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But he's a smart enough and approachable guy who can bring it all the way down to the small farmer, and he's an absolute asset. So without further ado, let's dive into today's podcast interview. We're standing here in my brewery with my friend Bryan, who is a digital marketing expert. And because we were in such an interesting room and he came for a visit, I was like, dude, can we do a podcast while you're here? And he was obliging. So Bryan's here. My backstory, you know, we're going to get into that in future videos, but a quick recap if this is your first podcast episode. I ran this farm for over 10 years and I stepped back and I got a job where I get to deal with bigger budgets and a lot more digital marketing out on the internet, which I'll explain in the future. But I get to work with fun people like Bryan who deal with even bigger budgets and know the ins and outs of the internet and the complications of all the things in ways that are tough to understand unless you're deep in it. And I reached out and I said, I have a lot of farm friends with the American Pasture Poultry Producers Association, and we wanted to make a podcast episode on if you were making $100,000 to $1 million on your small farm enterprise. I always talk about chickens because I love chickens. I'm wearing the chicken shirt. But it applies to any business because a chicken essentially is a widget. A can of beer, a sweater, your shoes, a car, it's all just business marketing and sales. Like business school, they don't have farm business school, it's just business school.
Yeah.
You know, and so all of it applies. So quick backstory on you, Bryan, on kind of what's your company, what's the general scope of the projects that you work on? So when everybody goes, who's this guy? Why should we listen to the guy who's not a farmer? Because you bring out outside experts when farming has a marketing problem, you bring in somebody to help you and give you some perspective. So we're gonna go over what the digital marketing is for those up to $1 million farm businesses and give a high level overview of kind of the general disciplines. But first, that's Bryan.
Well, hi everyone. So I've been in business for, let's see here, about 17 years. I've been in digital marketing since 2008. So it's been all digital the entire time.
It's been a bit.
It's been a while. Yeah, going on a long time. And SmarTech, which is smart, and then with one T, so SmarTech, one T. We're a marketing technology consulting firm. So we help businesses understand how to make their marketing work. I usually consider it kind of like the plumbing, right?
Okay.
Like Google Analytics, your conversion tracking, your back end. It's all the stuff you need for your site to work, right? It's all the plumbing, it's all the data, it's all the analytics, making sure that your conversions are tracking right, your revenue's tracking, and getting all that data to be represented in your back end. So it's kind of like, I come in as kind of like the data plumber to make sure that whether it is your email list, and making sure that data is clean and can be usable.
Yep.
Or whether it's your conversion tracking, making sure you're tracking the data. Are you getting enough out of it? Are you getting accurate information? Because data is all about accuracy. And so I come in and try to make sure that one, you're hitting your targets, but you also are prepared and you're ready and you're capable to hit your targets.
Awesome. I've been creating every video podcast with one person in mind, and he mentioned this
openly a number of times. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. And my friend Joe Coopson, has got $1 million farm. He grew a pasture poultry business up to $1 million, and it warms my heart to see somebody so driven and so successful. And if I had Bryan's ear for half an hour, and without interviewing Joe first, just talking about $1 million businesses, like we work with $100 million businesses, we work with bigger businesses than that.
Yep.
Smaller businesses. I've been talking to farms all over the country for 2 decades now.
Yeah.
It's weird to be a little older, but it's nice to have that cynical, experienced view on the world, because now I just want to focus on what works, what is relevant, and ignoring the rest.
Well, it's funny because I actually started out, my first 8 years was with small businesses.
Okay.
And we were a small volume, or a small money,
Yep.
high volume shop. So at one point, the company I was working with before SmarTech and before I had my own company was up to 40,000 clients, 40,000 small business owners that we had helped to grow and scale their businesses. Whereas now, the last 8 years or 9 years has been focused on enterprise.
Yep.
So mega conglomerates. I have a company I'm onboarding right now that starts with an A, ends with a T, and only has 2 letters. And we're onboarding them, and we're going to get them live in the market, and they're going to be spending a ridiculous amount of money. But the thing is, whether it's a ridiculous amount of money or a very, very small amount of money, it still has to be spent effectively.
Oh,
Efficiency is the number one key. Whether it's $10 million in ad spend, or whether it's $10,000 in ad spend, or $10 in ad spend, it has to have some sort of a goal. It has to have some sort of a KPI that you can accomplish whatever that KPI is with your target.
KPI, marketing guys love our acronyms.
Military.
Key performance indicator, those little data points that you can measure success against, so you know if you're hitting your target. And think about high volume, low dollar, selling a lot of eggs, a lot of
Yep.
chickens, but your margins might be thin based on your production, and it's agriculture. So we're all working hard at something that is inherently challenging.
Yep.
And the challenge these days, and what we're facing on the podcast this year at Farm Marketing Solutions and the Growing Farms podcast, is talking about digital marketing, because it is how people are succeeding these days. There is that corner store, there is that farm stand, but driving traffic to that farm stand, that tangible brick and mortar location, starts on the internet, because that's where everybody is.
Sure does.
So I want to talk real briefly. We're going to start at the home base on the website. And then, because I got a comment today, the last podcast was on emails, and somebody left a comment and said, our website's still relevant. So we'll do websites and then branch out from there a little bit, but we're going to condense it down to about a half an hour. And then if you guys have questions, leave them on it's going to be a YouTube video as well as the podcast. Leave them on the YouTube video so that I can see them, and I can reach out to Bryan in the future. Maybe we can follow up.
Absolutely.
Our website's relevant. Is it good to have a home base? And what are some of the necessities that we need for that website for a $1 million chicken business?
So let's think about the question. Are websites still relevant? Good question. What is the symptom that's causing people to think websites aren't relevant?
I would say that all the attention all the attention in the discussion is about social networks.
Right.
And should I have a Facebook presence?
Yep.
Should I go to TikTok?
Yep.
Where should I be online? Because I've had people at the conference say, well, we do all of our business off of Facebook groups, and we don't drive traffic to our website. But there's a big warning light in my head that goes off when that happens, because we talked about it in the email podcast. You're on rented land instead of owned land.
Cheers, buddy. That's exactly right. So the thing you have to think about with a website or a Facebook page is that your Facebook audiences are not owned by you. It's not an owned asset. If someone were to come and try to acquire you, and they were to say, hey, what's your distribution list look like? What's your audience list look like? No brand is going to buy your small farm because you have 10,000 Facebook followers. But if you have an email list, a distribution list of 100,000 or 10,000 or 5,000, there's different value there, because you can actually turn emails into revenue. Facebook followers, you can't, and there's a reason why. Almighty algorithm controls what you do.
Yeah.
And Facebook is a pay-to-play market. If you think you can get organic reach without paying, it is a bit of a falsehood. Unless you're in a group. Groups are a really good way to go about that because it's a little more of an insulated area. The challenge with groups is there's no advertising into groups. And oftentimes self-promotion is also prohibited. So how do you advertise when self-promotion is prohibited and all those details are against you? Well, it's owning your asset. It's called first-party data. And first-party data is collecting emails that you have ownership of. You have given permission to text or email that user to keep them up to speed. Why is the email list valuable? Well, let's say you're at a farmer's market. You want to email people and let them know that you're going to be having your famous creme brulee only on sale for a short period of time at this farmer's market that you made with your farm fresh eggs. Maybe that's an opportunity that people want to know about.
Sounds really good.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have that email list. That is a loyal audience base. And Seth Godin talks about the idea of building your tribe.
Yeah, for sure.
And the tribe is essentially a concept of if you have 10,000 people who are willing to spend $100 a year from you, you're looking at $100,000 in business. You take that same genre, that same aspect, and you scale it up a little bit, and now you're looking at $500,000, $600,000, $1 million in revenue, because what you're doing is you're growing that tribe. And you have consistent revenue that repeats itself, and you can predict it, you can forecast it, and its profitability is actually a probability metric now. It's more like, okay, we did or we didn't hit our metrics by 10%, we were off by 5%, but you're building an audience of predictability. And when you're looking at Facebook, there's an outside layer you can't control, and that's Mark Zuckerberg. And Mark has the ability to change that algorithm whenever he wants. And it's not necessarily in your benefit.
Because if the platform is free, you are the product. They're leveraging your data, your inputs. You're talking about your farm and yourself, which gets into building up your website and search engine optimization. That effort that you put in talking about your products in that Facebook group should at very minimum be mirrored on your website. Because for search engine optimization to build up that website presence for any scale business, talk about what you do and who you are and what you want to be known for in words at a 4th grade reading level on the internet, starting at your home base and then as many areas on the internet as you have time, money, and energy for.
So let's stop there for a second.
Okay.
So I think you tapped on something that a lot of people aren't going to recognize. Why a 4th grade reading level?
For me, you're hitting a broad audience and you need to clarify your point. I struggle with this.
Brevity is not my
I like
my
to
benefit
use
here.
a lot of words. This is why I like the podcasting medium is
Yeah.
so that I don't have to make a 30-second video.
Right.
Because I'm not going to explain search engine optimization in 30 seconds.
Nope.
But Jane Doe, who's your target audience, who you want to come and buy your poultry, she's got to pick the kids up. She's got to drop the kids off. She's meeting her husband out for something. And she has only so much time to understand what you have to offer and to decide if what you have to offer is right for her. And using flowery words or too much and being verbose doesn't get the point across. If you want to say more about it, make another post with one direct point, have it on your blog, but have the information accessible to the most amount of people, because the people who read above a 4th grade reading level are going to ask more questions and might want more. And that's great. You're developing a relationship, but you're casting the widest net here so that you reach the most people, because our goal is to increase our customer base, because at $1 million, we need to sell more than 100 chickens a year.
And so you got to think about it. If I'm writing content, I need to write to the general population. My information needs to be relatable, it needs to be actionable, and it needs to be understandable by the large majority of people. And Google knows that. So at the core of Google, it's a relevancy engine. Google wants to serve good content that's relevant, that has value to people who will read it and find that value for themselves and keep coming back and looking for that value again. Google is an answer engine. But if the answer is too academic, if it's too convoluted, if it's too over-explained, Google is going to devalue that content because it doesn't think that you're speaking to the general population for all the reasons you just said. Google understands that mother is looking at her phone for 3 seconds while her kid runs to the store to get a new energy drink or whatever. She only has a moment. how do you maximize those moments? And one of the times I was actually at Google, we went down there and went to Mountain View, and the theme of that year was moments. And I think that was a good 10, 15 years ago almost.
Yeah.
But the moments haven't really changed. It's still about what are those moments when you're looking online? What are those moments when you're trying to research? So it's really important to consider your audience and what you're trying to get across from that audience to ensure really maximized readability and really retention.
Yeah. It's fun. We're in that brewery and there's random things making noises.
Yeah, they really
and
are.
occasionally you look around and like it's a new environment for you too, especially.
Yeah.
Like it's a familiar environment for me. But we shot in here because it was a fun idea.
Yeah.
And,
I was like, is there someone coming around the corner?
and the advice we gave on search engine optimization at fourth grade reading level may not seem applicable to that $1 million business because Joe may have his website really tailored.
Yep.
But it does apply to Joe because the more refined your message is, you're going to take elements of that refined messaging, that simplification, that knowing exactly what you want to say to who you want to target, and then you're going to take that simple message, and that's when we start to scale it to the other platforms. So now we've refined, we've done some SEO, we hit our website, because this is a flashbang podcast today. We know we need to reach people with email, and I covered that in the last one. How do we start to scale that message at an affordable level without a $100 million budget, with a $1 million budget? How much should we spend on marketing? And then kind of what do we do? How do we, you're the pro. I've said enough.
So I think you need to come back to how much do you have to spend for a marketing budget? And what are you going to do with that marketing budget? So in general, the rule of thumb is a 10, 15, and 20. So at 10% of your marketing, or 10% of your revenue going back into marketing, in my opinion, is kind of the lowest common denominator.
Okay.
And that is when you are doing a lot of sweat equity, and that is like, the cost of your marketing website, the cost of your hosting, right? It's kind of some of the more basics.
That's that really weird noise.
Yeah, right. It's your hosting, right? It is your email server. It is the cost of having some of your basics. It's really your core cost of business, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's marketing, right? So you allocate that money to marketing. So if you're only doing $100,000 in revenue, 10% of that's not very much.
Yeah.
So that only really covers some of the basics. So that's where sweat equity has to come in. You have to be posting, you have to be writing content, you have to be reaching out to people and making more of a guerrilla marketing approach, right? It's really shaking hands and kissing babies, right?
Right.
Like this is the best marketing you can do under $100,000.
For sure.
Right?
Is that person-to-person contact.
It absolutely is.
But tough to scale. You'll get that at farmers markets. You'll get that at drop points. You'll get that at events that you might go and set up a booth for.
You're delivering products maybe by hand, right? Like I'm delivering eggs to you, right? Like it's literally, it's a relationship.
And the only way that scales is if you have employees or advocates for you, that you can turn your customers into advocates, but you still require another person to share that message and have that person-to-person connection.
Yeah, so the second element is when you're getting closer to growth mode and you want stable, steady growth, I recommend 15% of your revenue get put back into marketing. At that point, I'm expecting you to probably do $5, $10 promoted posts on Instagram, your Facebook. You got a really good video, you got a podcast with a handsome guy, you put $5 to post it, right?
I can't keep up.
It took a year and a half to 2 years to build this. I mean, you gotta take some time.
I have other assets.
Hey now. So you have to expect that 15% is going to be going into things that are sweat equity, but you're boosting your posts. Maybe you have a Google local listing. There's some really cool functions on Google Ads where you can actually do local focused conversions, where I try to get people into your location, into your farmer's market, into your store to come get eggs, whatever it might be. And you can optimize towards how many foot traffic you drive to that location. So I was telling John, one of the brands we work with, they're a pretty low spender. They only spend roughly around $20,000 a month in advertising. And we got them around 300,000 visits to their website or to their location.
To their brick and mortar.
To their brick and mortar. We had 300,000 visits to their brick and mortar in 2024. It was a great year for traffic. And there's so many fun things you can do when you're starting to get in front of your audience, when you're starting to drive traffic. So really thinking about how are you doing that. So some tactical actual action items. Boosted posts are a must. You don't even need to really worry about getting deep into like a Google ad campaign or a Facebook ad campaign. Like using your boosted posts to start is going to be a huge benefit. Getting on TikTok, boost your TikToks, boost your Instagrams, $5, $10 at a time for a couple of days just to start get that traffic going. Because unfortunately, organic is not going to rank.
It's funny. I find myself having to hold back because we could do a 30-minute riff on boosted posts and social media strategy.
Yeah.
This is an initial dive. Again, leave those comments and questions on the YouTube video.
Yeah.
Because then I'll know how to spin it off and create more podcasts going forward. Because
Absolutely.
in order to find how do you the 30 seconds on it, you have to post regularly enough on social media to figure out, even if every single post you get gets 5 views, but one gets 15, boost that one. You're looking for a trend over time, 5 or 10 posts, but the one that gets the most out of that, boost that one. And see where it gets you. And we'll stop there. Because again, I promised.
So one of the other things to think about is Google local listings.
Okay. Yeah. Google local.
Really important.
I know, they're so exciting. It accounted for a third of the it accounts for a third of the internet traffic for the brewery that we're standing in. Is that we optimized our Google local listing. We update it with regular photos. It is a beautiful place that we've built here, and people search for brewery near me, best brewery in Connecticut, breweries around Connecticut, and we show up because we have a fully formatted Google local listing that is local to our area, costs us nothing. Except for some sweat equity. Can I do any more with that? Like Joe Coopson's got a beautiful, I don't know if he does or not because I haven't, but my buddy Joe, let's say he's done what I've done for the brewery and we built out that local listing. Can we leverage that asset then?
Definitely.
Aside from the sweat equity?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways you can leverage Google Local. So one is actually don't ignore the updates that you can do. So the first thing you do is go to Google My Business, claim your listing. If you don't claim it, your competitors can claim it. So just claim your listing. It's simple to do. You're going to get a postcard to verify your business. Just do it. It's well worth it. The second thing is make sure you have a lot of photos. And the third thing I would say is treat it like a social media account. If you are posting on your Google ads, or on your socials, you should post on Google Local. Because those listings get updated and that keeps you relevant. It keeps the data. The other thing, don't be a douche canoe. Update your hours. Update your damn hours. If people want to know if you're open on Mother's Day, just update your hours on Google business listings, right? If you understand that you're going to be off on St. Patrick's Day, just tell Google you're off so people don't drive to your location. There's nothing more of a pet peeve than driving to a business because Google said they're open and having that closed sign on the door. That is infuriating. So from a customer satisfaction by itself, just open the app and update your business hours. It's not hard.
So we're a brewery with a tasting room, and we have hours, and we update them. I serve the agricultural community where I might not want visitors to my farm. But I serve a local area. I have drop points and I have markets. I serve restaurants and stores within a 100-mile radius, so 50-mile radius.
Easily.
How, if I don't want hours of operation and I don't want people coming to my location, is that Google local listing still relevant to me who does primarily distribution?
It is, absolutely. So as an example, so I own a Turkish towel company. Not sure if you knew that.
I did know.
So we import Turkish towels out of Turkey. I sell them out of my house. I really don't want people coming to my house. It's not a good
You don't
sign.
need them to see the garage.
I don't need them coming in with all the boxes. It's not pretty. I got drum sets in there. It's not pretty. So what I do is I set up my Google local business listings as a serviceable area. So if you change your target to a service area instead of an address, you'll still have to put in your address so that you can verify the business. And it'll ask you to put in your address. You'll be like, but I don't want them to come to my house. If you select that you want to have a service area of 20 miles,
Perfect. Okay.
50 miles, 100 miles, then what it'll do is it'll hide the actual physical address. You still have to claim it, but it'll hide it, and then you can have people come and see your listing based on if they're in that service area. This is very common actually for farmers markets, dog trainers who come to your house.
Oh, right, yeah.
Massage therapists who are like mobile, I come to your house. Dog groomers who come to your house. It's a mobile service, right? So you serve that market. You don't want to have your address on there. It doesn't matter. So in that situation, you definitely want to make sure you're selecting a service area. It's going to be a lot better for you in the long run.
One of my favorite disciplines is search engine optimization because it requires a lot of talking, which I have done a lot of talking on the internet. But this is all generating data, some context, so that if people don't know about you, that's because you haven't talked about yourself enough. And farmers, we're introverts. We don't always like to people. I'm a very what did I say the other day? I'm a very popular loner, where I know a lot of people, but I spend a lot of time by myself.
Right.
So I share my story because I can't see everybody, and it's taken a long time for me to get comfortable. That's why my channel goes dark at sometimes, because I'm uncomfortable with putting my personal story and my information on the internet.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think resonates with this crowd very much, especially the app. It's a bunch of introverts getting together once a year at that chicken conference to be like, it's okay, I'm scared too, but we're trying to make it work.
Yep.
And so you don't have to always be just the personal star of the show. It doesn't have to be the John Show, but let your farm and your product and your farm story be that hero, and talk about it because you're proud of it, because you put that sweat equity in. You go out and at night and you check the brooder, take a nighttime picture of the chickens, and that you care, and you're talking about that product and the process and how cute and wonderful it is, and share that, and you're creating context so that the algorithms, which are just computers that think human thoughts faster than humans can, and they're learning about you so that they can share your story with the other human beings.
Well, I think that's the other thing to think about too, is who is your audience and what do they want to see? So one actionable tip I'll give is you think about social media and the rule of threes.
Yeah.
I tend to teach people to pick your three, your Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay.
That's usually what I teach people. And the reason why is if you schedule content, and I do recommend scheduling your content. There's ways to do it on the platform. You just go in there and you schedule it for later. There's some third-party tools you can use that might cost a little bit, but you can do scheduling on the platform. So schedule for a rule of three. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Let's say if you have a business where most of your audience is working on the weekend, they're not necessarily on social. Yeah. Or if your audience is very social heavy, they're common social consumers, Saturday's a big day for views for you, then I would do the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Gotcha.
The reason why is because if you post consistently over that 3-day period, and you consistently keep that up week over week over week, you start to get predictable. And Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, what they love is predictability and theming.
Okay.
So if TikTok knows that your theme is chickens, and every Tuesday they know you're going to have a Tina Tuesday, and you're going to be showing your Tina chicken, right? And Tina is this cute little chicken, and she is absolutely wonderful, and she has a lot of personality, and my wife is probably going to spend way too much time watching that damn chicken. And you know what? She's going to love it, but she's going to look forward to that Tuesday Tina hour, right?
Yeah.
Establish a theme.
She's developed a relationship with Tina now.
She cares about Tina. And if she could eat Tina's eggs, she would probably want to do it. But obviously, we're not here. But if you look at your content and you say, I'm in this area and Tina's in this area and we're going to be at this farmer's market, guess what? Tina, her eggs can be now a product people can come buy, but Tina's the star. Let's be real. A lot of this content, by the way, can be faceless. You don't actually have to show your face on the internet to make money. I know that's not a common thing right now. Everyone's showing their face and other things on the internet to make money.
Yeah.
And we're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Right? Realistically, you don't have to show your face on the internet. But you do want to share your star. Is it your product? Is it your beer? Is it your sweatshirt? The product has to speak for itself. right? Unfortunately for me, I am the product. I am a consultant.
It's all in there.
It's all up in here. So I have to show myself. But you have a chicken or a chicken farm or a chicken product. Realistically, that chicken is adorable and it's going to get a lot of followers.
Yep.
Right? Like think of how many puppy posts are out there where it's these cute dogs and every week these people share their cute little fluffy, pumpkins.
For sure.
It is a absolute content, magnet. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I would think about it theming wise. If you have a specific theme, you can think about it. It doesn't have to match the Tuesday, but it can.
Yeah.
It can be helpful, right? Maybe it's beer Wednesday, right? Or maybe it's brewery Wednesday. And every Wednesday, you talk about something cool with the brewery. But it's just make it into a habit. Guerrilla marketing and old school sweat equity is all about building habits. If you want to lose weight, you build a habit. If you want to earn money, you build a better habit. And unfortunately, social media
that's really good.
is a habit.
Is a drug addiction platform built on habit forming.
It is.
To get people to come back and stay on it.
Yeah.
To trigger dopamine so that they like it, and we're playing their game in order to forward our mission.
It's 100% true.
100% true. So we've covered a whole bunch of basics.
Yep.
I want to hit at least Google Ads quickly because we're doing it for Joe.
Yep.
And then any wrap-up thoughts, and then we're going to go eat a chicken dinner at my house.
All right.
Which is great because we're talking about chickens.
That's right. I'm getting hungry for chicken.
And so Google Ads.
Sure.
Now, how much do I spend? What do I do? How do you approach that as that local to maybe regional business you talked about? A service area.
Yep.
And then is $5 enough? Do I need $500? You said 20 grand.
I did.
But 20 grand to get 300,000 visitors, 300,000 visitors with an average order value of $30 is pretty good.
Well, to be fair, that was $20,000 a month.
20,000 a month. Oh God! All right. So
yeah, it was per month.
We're beyond.
Yeah.
So I'm Joe.
Hi, Joe.
And I want to drive traffic.
Okay.
I have a great website. I regularly engage my email list.
And your Google local listings is on point.
My Google local listings is on point.
Great. That's great.
We've set some foundational stuff. I have my social media going. Yep. I actually use some of my farm workers are really into it. And I have them posting regularly. I'm in the office.
If you're $1 million Joe,
I want to scale.
If you're $1 million Joe, are you looking at your 10% rule, your 15% rule? And I didn't talk about the 20% rule. 20% is for mega growers. If you are in aggressive growth mode and profitability isn't your deal, you're looking at heavy, immediate, strong growth.
New customer acquisition.
Yeah, 20% of revenue invested back in your marketing with the intention of turning that into revenue. That's the big thing. Like marketing is meant to be a return on investment. It is not meant to be a bucket you just put money down. It is a casino. You put $1 in, I get $4 out, right? Generally, when we're working with clients, you're looking at a $2, $3, $4, or $5 return. Every dollar I put back in that casino, I want $5 out of it, right? Yep. You don't want to be losing money. If you're losing money in marketing, you're doing it wrong. Simple fact, right? So if you're Joe, right? Are you looking at hyper growth? Are you looking at kind of like just bare minimum? Or are you looking at the 15% where you're kind of steady Eddie? Like in this example, what are we thinking here?
I want to replace any customers that fall off because they made it through a year.
Yep.
And my retention's pretty good.
Okay.
But I have to backfill.
Okay.
And then I want to grow to 1.25.
Okay, but you're $1 million now.
I'm $1 million now.
Okay.
And I want to grow to 1.25.
Roughly, we're going to take out of $1 million.
We'll say 1.1 because that's another $100,000 of growth.
Yeah.
You get into like 1 point and you're like, 1 point, whatever. But 1.1 is another $100,000 incremental revenue for that next year. That's my goal, 2026. I know I'm going to do $1 million this year.
Yep.
That's my production. I can only raise so many chickens. But if I can set the foundations now to grow to 1.1 and then take those learnings and scale next year if I want to, how do I grow to 1.1 with that?
So 1, we got to take a look at our investment. 2, we got to figure out what our expected return is. But let's say you're $1 million revenue and you're going to put 10% into that. So it's roughly 100 grand.
Yep.
Right? $100,000 divided by 12 is around $8,000. So when I said $20,000 earlier, that wasn't
$8,000 is not a big stretch to 20.
It's not.
It's just a 12 grand difference.
Right, exactly. But if you're making 4x your money.
Yeah.
So when we talk about 4x, we're talking about 4 times your investment. So if I'm investing $8,000 in a month, I'm expecting a 4-time return on that, right? So we're talking about what, $32,000
don't ask
made
me to
back?
do math on camera.
Roughly,
like,
right?
I can type 100 words a minute, but if someone's watching me,
right? Oh yeah,
I can't.
So for benchmarks, let's just say 32,000. So if I'm investing 8, I want to be making 32,000 back.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure my profitability is in line. So then you look at that and you go, okay, because marketing is all a math problem. It's really all math if you look at it.
Yeah.
Everything on Google Ads is a cost per click.
We just lost half the audience.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
But everything is math. I'm sorry. A Google ad runs on a cost per click basis. And so as an example, we've had some YouTube videos we've run where the average cost per view is half a penny. So those views add up real quick, right? But let's talk about local listings. I can run an ad in my local area that says, I want a farm near me. Or in this case, a brewery near me. Let's just use us.
Yeah.
So I want a brewery near me. I want a brewery. I want a winery. I want some sort of alcoholic distributed venue that I'm going to go drink at.
Yeah.
And I type in alcohol near me. I want to have a Google ad show up that says your alcohol is here. And you can do that through Google Ads because you can tie your Google local listings into your Google Ads. And then it'll show as part of your ad a little sponsored pin. So on the map, you actually have a highlighted pin on your part of the map. So that sponsored pin makes a huge difference in maps because it is specifically showing you above everybody else. So by claiming your Google local listing, it allows you to advertise with a location listing and have that specific pin, and you can actually advertise with your call to action of get directions. So I can optimize that campaign for more directions, which means more people search.
More people showing up?
So I can do things, so how Google Ads works essentially is an auction. So you ever go on eBay, right?
Yeah.
And I say, all right, I need...
There's a crowd familiar with auctions.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah. So
livestock auctions,
perfect,
equipment
right?
auctions.
So you go to a livestock
eBay,
auction and you have 3 guys who are competing for that same piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And I say, I'm willing to bid $1. And you say you're willing to bid $3. And the other guy says he's willing to bid 50 cents.
Okay.
Right? But my website, I keep hitting my mic here. You're going to have to probably add that up. My website is better quality. It's got more relatability. And it really is.
And it has more context.
More content, more context.
More content and context about you.
Right.
So it's not just somebody who said, here's 100 words about selling chicken and I'm just going to flood it with money.
Right.
Because Google's going to look at that and say, it's probably a scammer. Because that's most of the internet now.
Yeah.
But Joe's got a footprint. He's got his local listing. He's got his social media. He's got all that content. He's been in business for a number of years now, so he's got some archives. And he's deep in context. And that will put you ahead that you're not spending that extra money. And because it's Google wants the person searching to be happy with the result. And if Google sends them that scam result, they're not going to be happy.
And so Google's not going to be trusted.
By building that context, that guerrilla warfare that you did in the beginning, the guerrilla marketing, you're lowering your costs in the future. It's an investment in the future, not only for getting that organic traffic, but lowering the cost of your paid traffic.
But let's talk about why.
Okay.
Because that auction quality score makes a big difference. So all that equity you've invested is going to put you at, let's say, a 8. But the other guy who's willing to pay $1 more per click, he's taking them to a Facebook page because he chose not to have a website.
Yep. Okay.
That is not going to rank anywhere near as high for relevancy as a website will. Facebook also won't let you track the sale from that Google ad. There's no tracking that's going to go from Facebook to Google. So you lose all your tracking. You lose all your data. And if you guys are farmers, you know that data is important. You got to know how heavy your
production numbers,
how
feed
your production
conversion
numbers
ratio,
are. Right,
all the things.
I'm a data guy. I'm a data analyst. If I don't understand what actions are having the best response, it's a wasted money. So you have a website because you want to stay relevant. You have a high quality score because you're speaking highly and you're speaking quality through your website to an audience. But you're not willing to pay the full $2 for that placement. Mm-hmm. You only want to pay $1. Well, because you're not going to a Facebook campaign, you get to buy that placement for $1. The guy who shows up second shows up and pays 1 penny lower than your bid. So you paid $1, he's going to show in second for 99 cents. And the guy who offered 50 cents, he's probably not going to show.
Yeah.
Right? So think about it as a math equation. If you're paying $1 for a click,
Yeah.
how many people do you need to come to your website to see your product to go, I want that? It's a math equation. Sorry. If you have 100 people come to your site and you're getting on average 10 people to say, I really want that, you need to decide how much that 10 people are worth. Is that 10 people worth the $8,000 that we need?
Yeah.
Or the $32,000 that we need to make our money back?
Yeah, yeah.
Probably not, right? So you have to consider, okay, at $8,000 in monies, at $1 cost per click, that's 8,000 people coming to my website. Oh wow, that's a lot of people coming to my website that are really high quality traffic.
Yeah.
Okay, now what? So if that's 8,000 people, realistically, Joe,
Yeah.
if you have 8,000 people come to your farming site, how many people do you think are going to come in? And are they buying once or are they buying multiple times? That's the question. Because if they buy once, you may make your money right away. But if they become a subscriber,
Yeah.
or if they become someone who becomes a frequent buyer, that return on investment just quadrupled. And we've talked about, return on investment and money. It isn't always immediate gratification.
For sure.
Sometimes the immediate gratification will get you a new client, and that new client, you may break even. That initial sale, you may actually break even, but don't be scared, because lifetime value matters. And if you have a product that's quality and that people want to come and enjoy and they want to come back to it, you're likely going to get that sale and the other sale and the next sale and the next sale. Mm-hmm. So when we're looking at that $32,000, it isn't from one day and one sale. That's from a year of investment or a month of investment. And you're trying to make that sale over time. So you're building client retention, you're building client loyalty, you're building recurring revenue. It all comes down to what percentage of people can you get to your site to take an action that makes you money. That math is going to tell you how many people you need to get to your website, and that number is going to tell you how many people you need, how much money you need to spend to drive that high quality traffic.
Which will come back to the why. We talk about the why a lot on my channel, of why you're doing the marketing. Are you doing the marketing to acquire new customers, to just retain the amount of customers, to increase? You don't want more customers, but you want to increase the amount of money that each customer spends when they visit your website, so that you're getting more profitability out of the same number of people. That's your average order value.
Yep.
And we covered a lot of ground. I know I've got some swimming heads right now, and we have dinner on the table.
We do.
Any closing thoughts?
Marketing doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to be scary, but it is something you have to put time into. And until you have the money to put into it, time is the money. Time is the resource that you have to put into it. And that sweat equity is one of those things where if you make good decisions, you're consistent, you build a brand, the money that you invest will go further because you've done that basic foundational level work to build a foundation. And then your digital foundation, you build on top of that foundation, right? A digital foundation is a concept that we developed that is essentially your paid media, your social, and then your email and your re-engagement. How do you drive traffic from people who are very high intent? How do you engage people who are very high curious? And how do you keep people who have purchased and are becoming loyal? Those are the three basic foundational steps of any marketing campaign. And it all boils down to, can you buy that client and then keep them happy for long enough to make enough money to make that client pay for themselves?
That was awesome. That was good. I was like, and then I'll come in with some good thoughts, and I was like, no, here, cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Bryan, for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
2025, we're going to cover guerrilla marketing tactics. This is Farm Marketing Solutions. We're on the Growing Farms podcast. We're dialing it in on digital marketing and getting a little further afield from production this year because we need to understand the internet. I'm focused on the guerrilla marketing tactics with scale in mind. So some of the things we covered today is going to hit a smaller audience because not all of you are operating at this level, but the more you can listen to it, think about it, and understand the basic concepts and how they play out over time and over different sizes of your business as your own personal journey grows and expands or contracts or changes because the world changes, the better off you're going to be in the long term, and that's
right.
what we're here for.
And if you like this kind of stuff, keep subscribing, keep watching the pod. We also have a podcast called the SmarTech Spotlight that is run by myself. If you want to learn more about really technical marketing, you can dive into that for hours.
It gets pretty deep.
It is a very deep well.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Pleasure.
Thanks again to Bryan for coming on the show. This year we're going to have some podcast interviews from people in the agricultural space directly, people farming and actually doing it. I'm going to get Joe on the podcast next, Joe Koopson. And then we're going to have people outside of the agricultural space who know their discipline, know digital marketing, know these various things that are going to help us succeed as business owners, and bring everybody in to pool that resource, grow the community. And it is the Growing Farms podcast. If today was a good episode, give it a thumbs up or a 5-star rating wherever you watch the podcast. And until next time, I will see you out in the field.